Hello and welcome back to the Demis Hellen channel. We're going to be building a preset for my new Dune Trance Essentials pack. 94 presets packed into there, and I'm going to show you how to create one of the leads, one of my favorites. So if you want to learn a little bit more about sound design or get a free preset, then you can follow along and you've got one of the presets from the Dune Trance Essentials pack. Don't forget you can get hold of the merch on the links in the description. Alright, so let's listen to the original sound first. So we've got my Trance Essentials Volume 1 leads, and it's lead number 6 called Evolution. So it's got some nice sound design in there. I'm going to show you how to make this. Obviously, if we open up the filter as well, you've got some nice sort of like solo lead, that power lead that you have on the top of a track. Also, little tip, do not use the same MIDI over and over again when you're designing sounds. Make sure you're just playing stuff naturally on the keyboard, as well as using some MIDI clips to get some ideas and make sure everything sits right, because otherwise you create the sound for that melody, if that makes sense. So, initialize the patch. We are going to create the sound, so 7 voices. Bring the amount of those 7 voices down to about 70, so it thins it out. Detune down to narrow the voices in, and spread out, so we got a nice spread of the sound over the stereo field. Second oscillator, we're going to bring in 1 voice. I'm going to set it to a triangle and mix this in. About 50% sounds good to me at this point, and that just gives it some central body, and we're going to hit reset on this oscillator so it always hits at the same point. Little tip, if you want to set that reset point on a particular point on the triangle wave, i.e. set your phase position, you can go into the mod matrix, use a constant value, and then right click on destination, and you can choose initialize phase, and then you can choose a phase point. So we're currently sat at 180 degrees, and we can go upwards or we can go downwards. That's how we can use that there, but we don't need to do it for this episode. Next, we're going to set the filter to a low pass 24 for a reason that I'm going to show you a little bit later on, but that sounds like this. And let's set these 2 envelopes here. So amp envelope 1, a little bit of a release just to stop any clicking and popping artifacts. Attack and sustain down so we can hear the decay. On that sort of like banjo pluck sound. And about 80% on the sustain to bring it back into lead territory, but it gives that little bit of snap on the beginning of the sound. And then with the filter envelope, we're going to leave it as it is. We're not even going to touch it. And I'm just using the envelope amount here to inject that filter envelope to give it a nice plucky feel when the cutoff is turned down. So I'm going to bring that down to 6%. So you currently can't hear it, but I'll explain why we're going to set it there. But let's first look at the filter. I'm going to choose the acid low pass. So the clean makes that resonance really obvious, quite thin at the same time. But the acid low pass gives depth, bit of warmth, bit of roundness. And the resonance is going to make a little bit more sense later on. So I'm going to open up the cutoff, leave it like that. That is the sound we've got, and we're going to have sort of like a higher piercing sound. Bit undesirable, but the distortion is going to remove that now, and you're going to hear it flatten the sound out. So it adds tons of harmonic detail in there, that overdrive. And the tone, if you push it too far, it's going to sound too thin. So you can't bring the highs back in with the tone unless you're going for that thinner sound. So I dial a smidge of tone in, and then I use the EQ to bring the highs back here. but to how I want it. Now, you can control the lows. You can do a little bit of a tilt, so an offset, so that gives way to making the sound a bit brighter because you're sort of like shifting the energy of the sound a bit further up the spectrum. But you can control the lows using the low shelf. And I'm going to use these two bands here, so you can see band 1 and band 2. I'm going to pick out some sweet spots, so I'm looking for where the power of the sound really comes out at me. Bring this over here. So some nasally power there. Now these are wide bands at the moment. You can narrow them up, but to save time, we're just going to leave them as they are. About 1000 kilohertz or 1 kilohertz, and we've got this one around 5k. So that's where the power's coming out. So we're not listening for the sweep and how does that sound. We're listening for where the power like punches through, and those two spots sound pretty nice. And then we had a bit of phaser, leave that till last. Delay 1, I'm going to put reverb before delay 2. I'm going to use both delays and I'm going to show you how they sound. So delay 1, I use ping pong. So my usual, just to give you an idea, I use simple and simple offset on 2 different delays to give it a nice eclectic sound. But we're going to use ping pong and the rhythmic in this case. Filtered works quite nice as well, but rhythmic is going to work for this one. So ping pong. And I'm just going to bring the dry wet down a smidge. And then delay 2, I'm going to put on before the reverb. Delay 2 is rhythmic, and just listen to how different this sounds now. I'm going to put this onto a quarter note and an eighth dotted to add a different pace into that sound. Makes it sound much thicker and richer, but you can hear there's a lot of phasing issues happening, so I'm going to bring a low cut in. Bit of a high. Dial it back. And I'm going to bring that feedback down as well. And then finally some reverb, and we used the stadium on this sound. So a bit of pre-delay, somewhere between like 30 and 50 milliseconds will do. It just allows the sound to come through before the reverb reverberates that signal. I'm going to bring a low cut up a bit, colour up a bit, just to give it a bit of brightness. Do this by ear. I already know how this is done for this sound. And then I drop it a few notches lower than that. And then I add the compressor on, which is then going to just nicely tie and glue everything together. So compression, I'm going to use the air to keep it nice and bright and snappy. Dial it back to about -3 dB-ish. And it just keeps the entire sound under control. We'll come back to the phaser at the end. We're going to now jump into a little trick, so let me know if you got this far in the video. Under the arpeggio, we're going to use these velocity values as a controller. So I'm going to bring them down to random values. Let's bring that one higher, that one much lower. Okay, so we've got different velocity values, and that's not going to do anything at the moment. We're not going to switch on the ARP because we don't need to. But I'm just going to set it to playback just to make sure. And then in the mod matrix, we're going to use the source. I'm going to use ARP1 velocity. And then I'm going to click and drag this node onto the filter. And I'm going to bring the filter down. And this makes sense now why the envelope amount is so low. So take note, we can't hear much. So now it's mimicking like we've opened up the cutoff a little bit and we've turned the envelope amount up instead to get a bit more of an eclectic sound and something a bit more unique. We're using the velocities from the arpeggiator. And just dial it into taste. I use about 47% on the original preset. And then finally the phaser. I use a 2-stage and it sounds like this. I brought it to less than 10%, just to add a little bit of extra movement in the background. We've got movement from the sort of like the oscillation of the saw waves going back and forth. So to sort of not sort of like get rid of it, but help mask it over, make it sound a little bit smoother. A little bit of phaser just helps to smooth things out, make it sound a little bit more natural. So there we are. We have a completed sound. If you enjoyed the video, let me know in the comments. If you have any questions, do the same thing down below. And if you want to see more videos like this more often, you know exactly what to do and where to find me. So thank you very much for watching. I will look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Take care.